Welcome, everybody, to the Jim and Sam Town Square. My name is Scott King. I'm joined by Chris Cangilla, and we are Jim and Sam super fans. We actually met because we are Jim and Sam super fans. Some Jim and Sam fans might know me from writing a few of the Forbes articles about the guys. I think I did a couple features on the show, a feature on Jim, and kind of some news updates on the show. I'm overdue for some articles on Jim and Sam for sure.
Well, that's actually how we met, Scott, because being a fan, and we should clarify, for me at least, I'm a fan. There's going to be people that know every little bit. I'm going to get things wrong. I don't know all the stuff. I just like the show, and I've liked it since it started, right? And all the other iterations of it. But yeah, that's how we met, is from you doing the articles. I'll tell my little story. I was being a fan and saw the article. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then in your bio, I think it said that you're based in Chicago and you write for Forbes. I'm like, well, this guy's right here. So I think I hit you up on Twitter, right?
I don't know. I might hit you up, and it's not important who slid into whose DMs. Well, we don't talk about old S on the show.
we don't talk about that stuff. We don't talk about the Chicago thing.
But no, it was you were so nice. And then I was covering the Blackhawks at the time also, so we would meet downtown, have a few lunches, maybe a couple of lunches, and talk about the show. And we were texting about the show. Then we kept having lunch and talking about the show. So I'm like, why not just when we want to chill at night, let's just talk about it. It'd be fun. Just we
do it anyway. We might as well share it with people.
All these other crazy kids are making some dough off podcasting and whatnot. So why shouldn't we? But exactly. So more about your background. You're a TV producer extraordinaire.
Yeah, I've been doing TV for quite some time. It's kind of funny. I was just thinking about this when we were talking about this show. Is that here I am hitting the mic just like Sam.
It's like Sammy.
Exactly. I've been doing TV for 30 years. I'm kind of close to Jim's age, and I was thinking, I think Scott's probably close to Sam and Travis's age. Yeah,
that's so funny you mentioned that. Yeah, Travis, I think I want to say is I'm 38, so I want to say he just turned 42, I think, and I think Sam is maybe 2 or 3 years older than me. So yeah, and that's one of the. We'll get into everything we like about the show, but that's one of the things for me is the way they just slide in those Nickelodeon Simpsons references, dude. It's just right in my wheelhouse.
And I'm 53, so a lot of the older stuff I tend to get. And but I have kids, so they keep me young. So I remember some of the stuff that you guys also bring up too, the 90s and whatnot. But anyway, so being a fan, and being in the business a little bit in TV and video production, been doing for a long time, and thought, well, let's just get together, you and I, and talk this stuff out, because it's something I enjoy. I mean, we haven't driven to work in a while. We don't do it as much, but it was what kept me sane. I have a pretty far commute to the city. We're both in Chicago, everyone. I have a pretty far commute to the city, and it just seems like that really helped me get through my days, is when I was able to listen to O&A and then Jim and Sam and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. I do not mind driving, because I don't know about you, but a lot of time I listen to the show twice a day. That's how much I like the show, because you might be the same way, getting a little bit of busy work done, or you're trying to get a workout in, and you'll listen to the show. Then I'm like, I kind of missed a little bit of that one segment. That was a great guest. I got a little busy during that one, and I'll listen to the whole thing over again. That's why I think I'm equipped to do this show.
I know you certainly are. I usually get most of the show on a drive-in.
Yeah.
And if I can get, because my commute's so long, if I can get to the first break, I'm using the app, because I go in a little later. I'm using the app, so I get to about the first break, and then I know where to pick it up afterwards,
for sure,
and be able to get the rest of it on the way home. So I get a show in every time I go. And then, of course, for me, I'm walking the dog every morning and on the weekend. So that's my saving grace there too. I just pop those earbuds in, and off we go with Jim and Sam and my dog.
For sure. And, watch out for those pointy statues behind you over your shoulder there, man. That is a nice background.
Well, thanks. It's a little
dude, you got to. So for people who don't know, I've interviewed a lot of actors and stuff for Forbes too. And anyone who's won anything, it is right behind them and all their Zoom background. So you wouldn't be doing yourself any justice to not have those there.
Where else were we going to put them in? The wife made me move them. Like they used to be in the mantle in the family room. She's like, I don't that's not where you work. I'm okay, great. No,
We got to show people to come in. Like
I'll move
that's
them
what
out
Henry
here.
Winkler was saying when I interviewed him. He's like his wife was, kind of asking him to move him, and I think he might have said something like, I want the pizza delivery guy to see and Henry when they opened the door.
Like the pizza delivery guy when he comes in, Mr. Winkler. I would guess he might be
Right.
pretty young and probably forget who he is, but I mean, he's been doing it for so many years. And then, of course, on Barry, you'd think that he wouldn't know him just by that
Oh,
he's an
for sure.
incredible person.
But
Yeah, it's great.
it's part of his resume and yours now as
Yeah.
well. And
Uh,
and hey, look at this.
what do
Look
you
at
got
this
there?
cup, an
Oh,
old
it's a little
school
little
Chip
chipper
Chipperson mug with the put a drink up
up
in
in that
this
mug.
mug. It's an
Yeah,
early one.
nice.
I don't think it's on Jim's site anymore, but I love this mug. I drink from it
Now,
probably more
this
than I
goes
should.
back to being a little older too. Do you see if you can see my hat, and this has nothing to do with Jim and Sam, but do you know what that is on my hat?
No, I do not.
See, that's I hope people get to see this because um older people will know that. And I
Older
think it's
people. I
also
love you're not that
older
old.
people
They're
like
like
myself.
older people of a certain
Um
age.
and it could be area. I grew up in Colorado, so
Yeah.
definitely in Colorado. But that little thing is an adapter that would go on a 45 album, you know, little single 45s. You tell me you remember LPs,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
records,
Yeah, yeah,
45
yeah.
singles. They would have that bigger hole, and that would go in that hole, and then you could put it on a record player that just had the single for LPs, that you know that little
Okay, okay.
needle
Needle.
thing that went up there,
Yeah.
and you can slide it on there. So this is an adapter to play 45. So
It's
it
awesome.
just it just reiterates how
Is that a
we used
hard hat to find? I imagine that might be like a nice
I
souvenir
just
hat.
saw it. You know, when you're scrolling through on, you know, whatever reels or whatever, and you see something, they know who you are and they know what you like. And I'm like, yeah, I love that
It was
hat.
it was talking to you. You had to purchase that.
Exactly, exactly,
Nice, man.
exactly. So let's talk a little bit about how we got involved with listening to Jim and Sam, but
I think
maybe
it's a
just
great
do
place to
a
go. Yeah.
little bit further back in how you started listening to maybe O and A and all that stuff.
Yeah, for me, I love doing interviews. I do a lot of interviews for Forbes, and I think probably still to this day, I would say Stern is the best interviewer, always has been since he started doing the big interviews at least. And I think maybe, not to sound like, oh, screw Howard, whatever, like a lot of people are, but I just think his show is getting a little different. And the first website I started writing for was a site called chicagonow.com, owned by the Chicago Tribune. The guy that ran it, Jimmy Greenfield, wound up being one of my best friends now, really helped me out with my writing career. But anyways, Jim was doing this amazing tour. It was him, Jim Brewer, Bill Burr, and Dave Attell, the
Wow.
Anti-Social Network tour. They were
Sure,
part of Just
sure.
for Laughs in Chicago. And somehow I had a blog on comedy because I did stand up for a while. I produced some stand up shows. And that was kind of like the first writing thing I did was interview comedians and got lucky. A lot of guys on the way up, Burr multiple times, Louis C.K. So I
Wow.
interviewed everyone on that show. For that show, I got Burr, uh, Jimmy, and Attell, but not Brewer. It just didn't work out. I still think Brewer's great, but for research, I listened to some old clips of the show. Listened to because I had Sirius listen to the show a little bit. It's like 2010, I want to say, and I was hooked pretty easily on O and A. It was the three of them together. It was O and just it was it
So you
was
weren't listening to them when they were on terrestrial radio at all then? It was
no,
all
but
okay.
I weekly will listen to a lot of old clips. I feel like I'm pretty caught up. And it's interesting to go back and listen to like O&A shows where, highlight YouTube videos where Travis is featured or
Yeah.
Sam and they're younger. It's fascinating to me.
And their voices are
But anyways,
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
just I was going to interview Jim, so I started listening to the show and I was just kind of hooked on because I grew up. I was in high school for Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn and all those,
Right.
heavy hitting New York comics would just trash each other and be so brutally funny about current events and each other and it gets so personal. And I just, I thought that died, that whole those guys together, that kind of humor.
Sitting around the table
And
and beating each other
yeah,
senseless.
just and the thing that O&A did not only that, but just the having a conversation, which Joe Rogan would say he got that from O&A, the way his podcast and his empire now is built on. I'm just sitting around with my friends, we're having a conversation, and the whole world finds it fascinating. So yeah,
I think my
I
email
just
went off because that's the kind of thing that happens when you're not, a professional. Is your email will go off. So I
yeah,
apologize on that.
yeah. No, you hit another you find another angle, and I just loved how the show was. I loved, I think they do a great interview because it's whoever's in there. They'll have another comics. It'll be Jim and Sam now, and another guest will interview some big actor. So you have the three of them kind of trying to fire out questions and make it a conversation. I just think it's fascinating. I think with
My
O&A
favorite part,
especially,
yeah,
because
my
the humor
favorite
is
part of
great.
that too is
Yeah,
that it starts when they walk in the door. There's no, it's like yeah, oh, we're recording. We're not going to do an intro or whatever. We're going to welcome our guests, but they just invite their guests to talk about what they're talking about, and they've always done this. And it's a conversation, and I think a lot of these guests are just so put at ease. It could be an A-lister or just another comedian that's on their way up. They're just like, let's hang out and chat. You know,
yeah, and I think maybe Jim just being himself, and like if he beats himself up, like something like, oh, way to move the mic, stupid, like talking to himself or something. They'll
yeah,
be like, oh, this is not a normal
yeah. 30
show
years in
where
the
they have all
business, and I
these.
keep on doing these, fart jokes or whatever they
Oh
are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're like this. Yeah, this guy's just being himself, and we're just talking.
So
And yeah, like you said, it's the way it just starts. Like I think we've talked about this before when we talk about the show. Is that yeah, I might be excited about some guests more than others, but there's just some about that top of the show where they're just whatever happened the day before or something that's still in the news. You feel like you're talking about like a morning zoo type show on terrestrial radio. Like, I can't wait to see what they say about this. But that's true with them because they're both so funny, and they both really have a great way of speaking about things and kind of spelling things out from their perspective. And a
absolutely.
lot of times, sometimes they don't agree at all.
And I told you, and I continue to believe this. My favorite shows are when they don't have guests. I just like
Yeah, yeah,
them
I agree a
talking
lot
with
of the time.
amongst
Yeah,
themselves, talking with Troy, Travis, Mike, who and just what's they saw a movie over the weekend, or they did this, or someone's getting engaged, or whatever. They just talk about the current stuff. But let me tell you how I got involved
yeah, go
in
for it.
listening to stuff because I listened to Stern, and it was I think it was on 105.9 here in Chicago. What was that? CKG, was that the name of the station? I
I think you're
can't
right. I
remember.
forgot what I forgot what like the nickname
Yeah.
was, but I
Anyway,
think you're right.
so listen to Stern, and then he made the jump to Sirius, and I didn't have, or XM at the time. I didn't have it. Didn't have it. Like, what am I going to do? And they brought on David Lee Roth, and that was a train wreck. And so I kind of stopped listening. Then I heard that some new guys were taking, we're going to take over that stuff, not knowing O&A and Jim, and just listen to that. And I was hooked, right? I was
Yeah,
absolutely hooked. And so much so I listen when they do the walkover. Remember that part when they
yeah,
do
yeah. I heard
that?
some of those live
And
actually.
and then my day was done because I didn't have the satellite, right? So I just got them during the show and then walk over. And this is, when I'm driving to work or whatever. And then I thought, I got to get satellite. I miss these guys. I like this show. I got to get it. And that's what I did. And, that was, gosh, I think 2006 when they started doing the walkover, and then they started doing XM, and
Yeah, I
just
think you're
stayed with
right.
them,
Yeah,
all the way through that.
around that time.
And then, kind of was, hit hard, gut punch when Anthony left. I mean, such an incredible part of the show. And when he, was taken away from the show, and it was a gut punch, but I stuck with Opie and Jim, and I even liked Opie was doing like a documentary show too, and I kind of liked it too. When they talk about
Yeah, I did like
documentaries.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
he had like an advice show he do from his place, and it was interesting.
like what do you watch and what kind of doc do you like? Which ones, here's a good one. That kind of I like
I
that
think
a
he's had
lot
a yeah, I
too.
think he's had a couple. There was the
Yeah,
advice show, this doc show. I don't remember the doc show that much.
yeah, he
Um,
did it with was it the Stengel brothers? Was at the same
Maybe you're
time?
right. Yeah,
Anyway, they did that, and then of course it was a little tough with Opie and Jim, and then and I was listening to Sam, do the pre and post game pre and post
that's what it
show.
is for
It
sometimes with
really
that show.
was. And then I wasn't in the car many times at night, but I'd also listen to him do his night show.
Yeah,
And I always loved, I mean, Sam brought us, as far as I can tell, brought us Jocktober, which was one of my favorite things that Opie and Anthony did was
yeah,
Jocktober and bashing
yeah.
those horrible shows. And so yeah, I was a big fan of Sam's then too, and Sam's one question, And then when Jim and Sam came together, it was like, yeah, this is good. It's good stuff, and it's been good.
Yeah, I was surprised by how much I liked Opie and Jim. I was surprised by that. I was like,
Yeah,
look, I
I
gotta
didn't.
this. I'm used to having these guys. I gotta try at least two of them, and I just I knew Jim would be solid still in whatever, because not only is he a brilliant stand up, but he will fire in the most perfect line any comic could have in a riff.
I
Like
mean,
you
who
could
is
tell
it?
when a joke's coming, if like me and you could tell
Yeah,
probably, and but no, he nails it. And a lot of comics wouldn't. And you have someone like Voss in
yeah. The
or
quickest.
Attell, guys who've been around, like, no, he's
He's the
super
quickest.
fast. He's
He's the
crazy fast.
fastest. He has the
Yeah,
quickest wit, and he will throw in that one liner or whatever it is, and or call it something, whatever they're talking about. And he's one of the quickest ones in there. Yeah, for sure.
absolutely. And then when kind of like I said before, when Jim and Sam got together, those '90s references were just like, okay, for me, I'm like, all right, all right. And
Yeah.
they had great chemistry. You couldn't deny it from the start. And you mentioned when the other guys chime in, like Travis, Troy, and you get Montone in there. And Travis is so good. I've talked to him about this for some of the Forbes articles. He's so good at picking his spots where he has something to add, and it's always very funny or informative. And he goes back to doing his producer job. He doesn't stay on too long. And Troy's the same way, and so is Mike.
Being in TV, there's always people that want to get into the spotlight, right? And you have your crew, you have your main hosts or whatever. I don't think that any one of those guys has ever tried to say, I'm going to be a star now. Here, I'm going to talk a lot. They know when to talk and when to let Jim and Sam carry the show,
Yeah.
and let them do their thing, but they'll put in their little bits, and one will talk about the other. Yeah, they are absolutely perfect in being contributors and not trying to be hosts.
I think it's because also they recognize that they are going to have spots every show, particularly when Jim goes to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not
There's
going to
going
be
to be
back for a
moments
while.
where
They're
you
going to have
need
to
someone else
carry.
on the bike with Sam.
It's interesting. Sometimes guys will be off in with we found out during the pandemic they're able to do a lot more shows remotely
Yeah.
than they used to. But it used to be times will be off, and if Jim's off, it's tough. But boy, I like when just Sam and Travis and Troy talk. I can deal with that,
100%.
And
100%.
then when Sam's off, Travis kind of takes that role of running the show and teeing up Jim. It doesn't happen very often, but there's things don't fall off that hard, right? When that happens. Now, would I love just Jim and Sam to be there all the time? Yes. Do I get angry when they go on vacation? Yes. I can't listen to reruns. I hate them. And it
We're
bothers me.
different there. I do because
Yeah.
a lot of times, they happen to be ones that I really liked, and I'll remember stuff I liked. That's just the way I kind of am. I'll go back and listen to stuff and see what worked and
It's
enjoy it.
funny because opposite, for movies or for TV shows, that's all I do is watch things that I've
Yeah,
watched over. I'll rewatch everything, but I think their take on current events. I want to know, if
for
something
sure.
happened in the news last night or something happened over the weekend or a star did this or whatever. I want to know it because I have a funny take on it,
And
and they
you're getting
differ.
4 new shows a week too. It's not a movie
Yeah,
or a TV show.
exactly.
You're gonna have new content kind of coming in. So
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of our favorite Jim and Sam moments from over the years. And I'm going to start because this one surprised the heck out of me, and it has a Chicago tie to it. Jan Terry week was my favorite week of the last couple of years with Jim and Sam because that music, and I'm a musician too, and I wouldn't qualify myself being a great musician like Troy is, and having that kind of cachet, if you will. But
I've seen some videos. You can play a
well,
guitar.
I can play a little bit, but the point is that it's so bad, it's great, and it just leads me to another thing that gets me all the time is Jim finds earworms that just you have in your head all day. And I had Jan Terry songs, and it's like you don't forget that I
He
danced.
creates some too. Yeah, he doesn't just
Yes,
find. He will mix some up.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's something fishy going on with Dolly Parton. All those earworms just get in there and they just last. But Jan Terry week and all the things that Jan Terry did and said in those songs was part of my favorite. What's one of your favorite moments of the last couple of years?
I thought it too right away, and we're both going to come up with Jim stuff, but what makes Jim stuff great and memorable is also how Sam and Travis respond to it, and what they say, and how they point out how different he is socially. So an example of that is probably my favorite moment, Jim and Sam, when Jim went to an Ozzy concert, a Black Sabbath concert, as he tends to do.
On the stage, huh?
And a listener happened to either tweet or send the show a picture that Jim apparently was standing on stage next to, I believe, the bassist, and not realizing how far up on the stage he was, like a performer. I mean, maybe because he's done so much stand up, and he plays some big venues, that maybe that just wasn't in his mind, that he didn't realize that
Or
he
he
was
didn't realize he was singing or something. But yeah, I
but
love that story.
so funny. I mean, the visual and the way they were all in hysterics. And I brought it up to Sam, and he was cracking up again. One time I interviewed Sam a year or two ago, and my God, that was hilarious. And then my second one I thought of was because the guys did such a good job during the pandemic, and Jim had these red Solo cups, and he would drink water from them. You know, he's done pretty well for himself, and he's just drinking probably tap water out of red Solo cups instead of having some nice glass bottles or something that people of his ilk tend to have. But anyways, there was a few interviews where there were big gets, or he just liked the subject so much that he would go to the bathroom in one of the cups so he didn't have to miss the interview.
This is before Montone was able to give him a product, right?
A great Secret Santa gift, a jug, the Montone jug, as it came to be called. So I think he did it for Gervais before and lived to tell about it. But then I think he's interviewing Ozzy for one of his surprise birthday shows during the pandemic, and I think he drank some of his pee.
Yes.
Red cup. By accident.
Wasn't paying attention. Yeah, all of that was remote. He wasn't doing that in the studio, mind you. God. But yeah, that was good. You know, here's a Sam thing that I've always loved. And I mean, Jim appreciates it, but oh, hi, Mark. I love The Room. I love when Sam would talk about The Room and take us deep in that, because I knew nothing about it, absolutely nothing about it, until I heard Sam talk about it. And then I do my research. For me, if I like something and someone talks about it, then I go way off and I do my research and I learn about it, because I want to know how else somebody came up with it and that kind of thing. And just to listen to that. And it was right before the movie came out of the making of The Room, you know?
Right.
And, you know, anytime a Mark would call in, you know, it's, oh, hi, Mark. You know, I
do like how he says that. I appreciate it.
Sam does it. Yeah. And he just had him on, not Sam too, right? The guy,
the actor,
the real Mark. Was it the real Mark or the actor?
His name.
Was he
the actor from The Room?
From The Room. So he was the real friend of the guy, right?
Yeah. Sure, he has some crazy stories.
Artello, Mark. I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot.
Artello. I don't know. Anyway, let me ask you this.
We will be better prepared in future episodes. Well, we will know everyone's name.
I'll tell you what. I'm not going to be, because here's the thing. I'm a fad. I don't remember things as much. I'm the Jim in our group here, because I'm starting to forget things.
We are just super fans. That's what we are.
That's it. We're super fans. Now, tell me some of your favorite regular guests that come in.
That's a great question. It's good fodder because there's so many. So what qualifies a regular guest for me? It's probably just like a comic, like a comic they have on all the time.
Sure.
I think for me, my answer is Gervais, kind of overall.
He was on my list too. Yeah.
And I think it's because even though he's super famous and super successful, that he wants to be. And I interviewed Ricky Gervais for one of the Forbes stories about Jim and Sam, and he talked to me for 30 minutes. He was amazing, and he wants to be one of the guys. He goes in there and he will request Bobby Kelly or Voss to also be on the show. He just loves hanging out with those guys.
It's that table thing, right?
He probably is furious to be on Tough Crowd. Yeah, he loves that atmosphere. He loves the way they're just brutal to each other. He thinks
it's really funny. I think the mega superstars, which I would consider him one of, they just want to go back to the time when they're maybe up and coming or just getting successful, and they want to be one of the guys. They want to hang out, and they just want to forget that. And I think it's definitely Sam and Jim treat him with respect, but there's a little bit of, you're just one of the guys too, which they're not kissing his butt, like other interviewers would,
right?
And thinking, bowing down to his brilliance. They'll give him grief and I think they even were bringing up his music career and making him try to sing a song from back in the day and really embarrassing him.
Nobody's safe in there.
No, and there's
you're right. There's a reverence for him because he's so successful, and they were such big fans, both Jim and Sam, and probably the other guys too, of the British Office.
Right.
which from what I've seen, I haven't seen much of either, but from what I've seen, the British Office seems so superior just because it's character driven. It's not, as Jim would
It's
say, awkward, close up, awkward. The
it's
American
just
Office.
different. I mean, I love the American Office.
A lot of people did. A lot of
I'll
people
tell
did.
you this. So I'm one of those guys that has the TV on when you go to bed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Nothing wrong with that.
it's usually on The Office because The Office is on
Always
Comedy
on.
Central at night. And then it switches over to Friends because we have them, my wife and I both like having the TV on. I don't know what it is, but I love the American Office, and I get all the references that Travis and Sam say because I love the American Office. But
Yeah.
I also love Gervais, and I
Yeah.
watched the British Office after I watched the American Office, and I loved it. But I love Gervais's new show. It's not even new anymore, but the three seasons of the show where he's want to kill himself. Which one is it again? I always forget the name of it.
Oh God. I don't
Don't.
remember.
Now we're gonna be those guys that forget the name of it. No, it's a
That's
Netflix
okay.
show. It's oh gosh.
Oh, the name of his Netflix show?
Yeah, the what not his comedy stand-up show, but his
Afterlife.
Afterlife.
It's a
Yeah.
brilliant show. Brilliant
It's
show.
an
I loved
incredible
it.
show.
My wife liked it too.
I put that up with, Ted Lasso and those kind of shows where it
100%.
just
A little
it's
more kind
extremely
of vicious, the
yeah,
humor sometimes, a little dark, but
yeah.
right in my
It's just
wheelhouse.
it's
Right in my
it's like
wheelhouse.
Barry, those kind of shows. It's just it's
Right.
extremely, extremely funny, but so heartfelt. And I have never seen such a tender moment of in that show when Gervais was talking to his dad who doesn't remember him. I think he was suffering from dementia
Yeah.
and he
I
remembers him
remember that
for
scene.
a little bit. And it just tears at your heart. And it's just like, here's this man that makes me laugh and makes me uncomfortable, but this is also giving me this warm, incredible moment. So I get, I just like that kind of humor. And I think, like you said, they respect him for all the things he's done and both of that, in the office and whatever else he's worked on, but he just wants to be one of the guys, right? He just wants
Oh
to
yeah,
hang
he
out.
loves it. He loves going in there, and that's why I'm sure he turns down interviews all the time. I just emailed his publicist, and when he picked up the phone, when I called him, I don't remember if he called me, but I was like, I knew if I requested you, you're going to do this because I know you love that show. And he goes, I do. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
Yeah. There
So
isn't, I'm sorry. I
yeah,
was just going to say
no, go ahead.
there isn't any falsehood there. You can tell that he loves it because he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't
He
have to
doesn't.
go on those
He
kind of
doesn't.
shows at all.
Yeah, he's been tweeting kind of the feedback and the numbers for all his Netflix stuff. The Afterlife, his special, everything's number one, at least in the UK, that he does on Netflix
Right.
or anywhere else. He doesn't need anything. He just likes going in there, and he goes to New York sometimes. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when he's in town. He wants to see those guys. All right. So I have my favorite guess and then
Let's hear
maybe
about it.
one that we disagree on. And we'll go over that a little bit. But
Yes,
my
yes,
favorite, I love Bob Kelly in there.
yeah,
I've always loved Bob Kelly being on the show. I
great
love
one.
Dan Soder being on there, Mark Norman. Those are some of the guys that I absolutely love. I'm not a huge fan of Rich Voss. We've talked about this.
That's where we differ.
I know you love him. I appreciate his humor, and he is a legend. You can get the
Okay,
shirt to
okay,
prove
that's why
it,
I like him. Yeah.
but he's just, maybe that's what it's funny about. But he's just so bad on air. He's just a dimwit on air.
Well, I guess if he tried to cover it up in a way
That's
where
even
he thought he
funnier.
could get away with it, maybe I wouldn't like him as much. And they just jump on him, but he'll do something so
Oh, he's
dumb,
brilliant.
like not talking to Mike, and then he'll fire off the biggest like one-liner burn to Norton, like in a split second.
Yeah.
So
I do
I
think
think he's
Sam
so
turns
quick.
on him though. Sam will be his buddy, and then he'll make fun of him in front of a big guest
He
for
called him
sure.
rich bitch.
Yeah. So yeah. So I'm not a huge fan, and if this show ever gets anywhere and Voss hears this, he's going to be pissed at me for saying that and
It's okay. You're being
probably make
honest.
fun of me. I'm just
He
being
can
honest,
take it.
but
If you've seen
yeah,
his rings, he can take it. He's, as Sam likes to point
maybe.
out, he's done very well for himself. You
And
can tell by his jewelry. He likes to show
he's in a lot better shape than I am these days too.
it.
And so yeah,
Well,
he'll
I
be
don't know. He
fine.
hasn't taken his shirt off in a while. He probably should. So.
He needs to do that. Pop that off. Come on. I'm sure Sam
Yeah.
will get him to do it.
Yeah. No, I think just maybe going back to me growing up with the Tough Crowd show, he was a regular too. It was him and Norton and usually Bobby or Attell with Colin Quinn. So he's got a soft spot for me there. Vicious lines. And he does so many dumb things and says so many dumb things and mispronounces words that there's always so much there for them to grab at, everyone else on the show.
And then
I know it's going to be great every time.
I can appreciate it because, if it was really not a good thing, Jim would not be friends with him. And Jim is
Yeah.
so close to him and, and says he's one of his best friends. So you gotta appreciate that. What else, my friend? Any other guests you got?
I was going to say another guest. I think I also kind of did another category in my head for an up and coming guest. I don't know if you have any of these, but I got to say, when Sam went on the Are You Garbage podcast, I was like, oh, I'll listen to this podcast. It's kind of cool. Sam's doing a big podcast. I'll listen.
Right.
That episode was great. I got hooked. Those guys are awesome. Two hilarious guys who
They've been on the show.
Stand up. They're probably great. And then the podcast is so good, and they're great on Jim and Sam. They get that show. I don't
remember if I remember them being on the show.
They've been on at least twice. And
okay.
I love
I'm sure I did. I just probably don't know their names or did put that together.
Yes. But I love when kind of like a Mark Norman, he's pretty established now, but when the younger comics, they're kind of coming up, when they have that kind of reverence like Norton has for Gervais, they have it for Jim, and it makes Jim uncomfortable, and it's awesome. But it's so cool that everyone respects Jim that much. So
I do like that. I do like, of course, the big number one fan these days is Soraya, the intern, and she's been a whole lot of fun with she's just wacky. She's wacky, and it's not a put
on the show.
Yeah, she's brilliant, and they just absolutely love her, and that leads me to some, like we talked about before, but like the Secret Santa, the Christmas episode. I absolutely love the Halloween episodes when they would come in costume, and that one. What was he? A world famous bass fisherman? Mike Iaconelli.
I might make a good guest for our show. We'll see.
Yeah, I shouldn't know. Maybe we'll have to have Mike on there, or maybe who was that? Do you remember who was that that was a producer?
Was it?
Oh, it was what's his name? That was just in with Soraya that was judging her pictures, right?
Yeah,
Frank. Was it Baby Frank?
Baby Frank.
Yeah.
He was an intern, right? Baby Frank.
Yeah. And
he was awesome.
That was good.
There's so many. We'll have to do best interns for Jim and Sam interns for our show. So I'm running out of time because I refuse to upgrade my Zoom. We've hit a good meaty show already. What I want to tell everybody before we put a bow on it is that you're going to get some of this, some of the things that we think work. You're going to get some kind of best lists that we might make and discuss and dissect, but you're going to hear from us weekly, hopefully. And we're going to recap the shows before our show that week. And we're going to find some super fan guests, I think.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, who knows, how far this goes, but I if I just, picked up the phone and called you tonight and did this, it makes me happy.
For
so
sure,
if it's
man. We have
it's an audience of one, you and I, then it's great.
Yeah,
but hopefully other people will like it. And please remember, we're not experts. At least I'm not. So we just like the show, and we know a lot of people do too.
I've written about him a few times, but
you're an expert.
Sometimes I'll put the hat on, sometimes I won't. We'll see. But thanks so much for jumping in on this with me, Chris. I think we're gonna have some fun.
Scott, it's been my pleasure. I can't wait to do more of these with you.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys, and watching, and we'll check you out later.
See you in the town square next time.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not Doug Bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're listening to just the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.